What's going on YouTube? Thanks for tuning into the channel. Welcome to Dak Attack. I have a video here about the strategic lifestyle. So this is a term, a phrase that I coined. Actually, I'm writing a book about it right now. And I just want to start with where this even came from. So if you're anything like me, you're probably kind of deep into a lot of the personal development stuff on YouTube. That's really how I got started in all this. So I got started, from the Mike Chang six-pack abs days, like into the health and working out field, to like sales and Grant Cardone. I know I mentioned I'm in sales many times. To some of the dating stuff, the RSDs, and then there's tons of spin-offs there as well. And then what I've seen in all of those is that they started on kind of a main niche, and then they've kind of expanded it to this kind of lifestyle brand. But I feel like there's a gap because most of them never started with that holistic approach to start. It's like they just tried to add it on, and then when you're looking at their particular life, their path to gaining that is not as replicable as a lot of them say. And the way that I want to say that is, like, you'll see a lot of these like fitness or health YouTubers basically talking about business, but if you don't run a health and fitness business, like, a lot of the stuff that they're telling you is not really fully applicable to what you're doing. Same thing if you go to some of the, well, I guess the business, I don't really think, I mean, some of them more the entrepreneurship side, but sales side, they kind of just stay within their own lane. But you definitely see it in the dating niche that a lot of them will talk about business and making money, but like, if you're not gonna just go out and try to be some fucking PUA, there's not as much benefit there for you in terms of the shit that they're saying on that. And I see very, very little about society. So with that point, I want to jump into the 4 pillars that I think are the most important about it, but also what is really the strategic lifestyle all about. Really, it's all about just positioning. It's a concept I've been thinking about a lot, especially with this pandemic. Where I am for the age that I am, where I'm trying to be, and how to get there. And the 4 pillars that I would say in this order are health, wealth, society, and then women. Obviously, this is more geared towards men around my age, probably around 25 to 35, maybe 20 to 35, just to give a more broad range, but in that order and for a particular reason. And the reason why I talk about it as positioning is that everybody is different, and everybody is going through life with different skills, goals, and ultimately different things that are going to have them achieve peace of mind in the end. So your approach, or necessarily the actual thing that you're doing, is less important than understanding positioning all of these in that order and getting a good position, so that things can come to you a lot more easily. Where the concept or the visualization I have for it is coming from, like chess. It's a game I like to play, a very strategic game, and there is a move called the Walk of Shame. If you don't know what it is, just go look it up. I don't want to spend too long explaining it, but it's basically a position on the board that you get where the game is over before it's over. Essentially, there is nowhere for the king to move. All you're going to do is walk them down the board, and then eventually it will be a checkmate. But both players, if you have any experience in chess, will know far before the game is legitimately over, unless they obviously forfeit, that the game will be over because there is nowhere to move. They're going to be in check each move until they hit that eventual checkmate. And that is really the goal, in my eyes, of the strategic lifestyles. You want to position yourself at a point as early as possible where the game is over. There is not, like, none of the basic necessities that you need are no longer like a strive for you. Those are already given. So then anything else you do for the rest of your life, and barring really fucking shit up, is pretty straight lined, and it's just gravy and cake on top and the frosting on top. You don't have to worry about it, and that is really the goal I have for myself. And as I'm doing it, share it to you through this video, but then also through the book, which I have done probably by the end of the fall. So jumping into the 4 pillars, I'm going to start number 1 with the health. So health, super simple. You only get one body, when I'm talking about health, I'm talking about both mental and physical. Everything you do is an n equals 1 experience. There's no way you can ever transfer exactly your experience to somebody else's experience. Therefore, the experience you're having in your body are going to never be you're never going to be able to be separate from that. So it doesn't matter if you have a great handle on your wealth, on society, or women, if your health is bad, whether it's mental or physical. If you're depressed, none of those other things are ever going to bring you out. And if you're fat and just sloppy and fucking lazy, not doing shit, you're just going to feel like shit all the time. Like, you're not going to, doesn't matter what happens on those other pillars. This is really the main foundation everything sits on. That should be the number one thing that you look to get into place and position in a place where, you know, you're happy with it, you want to maintain it, and you have routines and protocols that'll keep that on that consistent path. But it's number one and the foundation. You only get one body, one mind, one life, so your health is paramount in the whole thing. Number two is wealth. This is something that definitely in this political climate is very contested, but at the end of the day, until shit changes, we live in a capitalistic society. There's a great book, I'm going to do a book review on it, called Homo Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari, where he basically talks about how basically the globe is now joining to all be on this capitalistic society. I can name communist countries such as China, Russia, Soviet Union. Those are all now on, you know, GDP capitalist societies in terms of the way that they're producing things. So that being a main value to the globe is not going to change. We live on an economic planet, and if you live in the United States, you live in a capitalistic country. You cannot go any month without spending money, and that is probably the biggest problem that we're in during this whole COVID epidemic, is the lack of money that a lot of people have to spend for daily necessities. So managing your wealth is number two. Right after your health, if you don't have money and you cannot withstand different financial storms or happenings, you're going to have trouble with the next two pillars I'm going to talk about. Even if you do have them at a point in time, if your wealth isn't right, you're going to be either stressed out or it's just going to give you more trouble with the next ones. The next one I will say is society. And this is because everything happens in a social context. If you know anything about me, I'm super into Robert Greene and all of his work. Laws of Human Nature is a book that, if you want to learn more about this, you can go deeper into that. But the book that's the best that he first introduces the topic on is Mastery. In part 4, he talks about Benjamin Franklin. Not going to get into that story per se, but the idea that everything works in a social context. There's a lot of people, such as the Dr. Semmelweis, also Nikola Tesla, that, and I'll use those as examples, that were kind of like work purists. They were people that believed that, like, in more science, because they were scientists, like a science purists, where they believed that the findings in science could be separated from the social realm. The reason why I'm picking science particularly is because it's probably the most, that and math, that we compartmentalize, at least here in America, as being like apart from, you know, the emotional social realm of things. But even in those industries, Nikola Tesla, even though right now there's a company named after him, he died a broke man. Thomas Edison took all of the credit for all of his work, and at the end of his life, the award that he was given was the Thomas Edison Award, even though he made the breakthrough that made, you know, the light bulb able to happen. Same thing with Semmelweis. He was the first person that discovered germ theory, the idea that, you know, germs could infiltrate the body through like an open wound, through invisible bacteria that's on your hands. He was the first person to discover it. He actually ended up dying in a psychiatric institution because everybody thought he went crazy. He died a broke man because he never wanted to write a peer-reviewed essay. He just basically wanted to say that he was right. Basically, all the doctors just kind of denounced him, and he also died broke. So even within anything, if you want to work, do anything, we all live in a world that is connected by people. It's the reason why we've been able to do so many things, is because of the social context is deep in our evolution, and everything you do is in a social context. If you have no understanding of how to maneuver within society, you're going to be plagued with tons of issues and problems. And that's why a lot of people with, certain mental handicaps such as autism have such a hard time, is that they cannot just function in society. Even though they might be super smart at some other thing, when it comes to every other piece of the game, they have that inability to speak and communicate. For a good person to look on that is Temple Grandin. She's actually somebody that overcame that particular limitation. But I digress there. So that's society. And the last one will be women. The reason why I put this last is because in my view, I think that this should be more of the cherry on top of your life. If you're able to handle the other three, you should be at a point where you feel pretty like happy with yourself, content. That is like the main things, or how you're going to operate in the world. Now obviously we have biological needs. I am not a celibate person by any means, so definitely managing that as well is the next piece. So since you're going to engage in that just because of the biological necessity, and then also people want, families, things like that, there are a lot of repercussions that happen if you do not choose correctly. The first one, and probably the lowest one, is just the headache. Any person that you're dealing with, especially in a type of like intimate relation, is going to invest time. And if you're investing time into something that is draining, that is annoying, that is a headache, that is just not something that you necessarily want in your life in general. But there's way worse repercussions. If you are to marry somebody that is not who you want to be with, you have the issue of losing a lot of your assets. You have the issue of paying paying alimony for years and years and years for a situation that didn't work out years prior. Now if you also have a kid, which a lot of my friends I'm seeing are involved in this situation, that they're in a relationship with somebody, it's not necessarily the best thing, and then the girl gets pregnant, and then now they're in a situation where there is an attachment, there's resentment from both sides of the people they're with, and then they're in this weird limbo of trying to do the right thing when it's more of a sunk cost bias. It's like, I already have something invested here, so I want to keep investing to save it, rather than this is a decision, if I removed all of the past, that I would make again. And that's not a situation you want to get into. So managing that as well, because your decisions with women could be one of the biggest determiners of things that you do in your life. So those are really the main four that I would say encompass my view, what I'm calling the strategic lifestyle. There's way more pieces to your life, of course, but that is really just the scope of the book that I'm writing right now, and I've just been kind of contemplating with all this time, more or less alone with the social distancing and the closing of many public venues, and I've been seeing a gap in the whole YouTube community about that type of content. So that's it for this one. I'm gonna try my best to keep these more and more consistent. I know I say that all the time, but man, I've been on that sales grind. But if you like the content, like, comment, subscribe. If you fuck with the vibe, welcome to the tribe. Till next time, peace.